Hello, my name is Dylan, and I am going to interview Dylan. Now, you may ask how I'm going to do this. Well, I'll tell you what. There are two Dylans. There's this Dylan, this Dylan. Now, how am I going to interview myself? Well, I'll just ask myself a various amount of questions about my life and other things. So let's get started, shall we? Well, certainly. I'd just like to say that I'm thankful for being on this show. I mean, there just isn't the opportunity to spread such knowledge to the people out there. How right you are with that, Dylan. Now, I'd like to begin with my first question. What was it like growing up as a kid? I'm very glad you asked that. Well, when I was a kid, I just like any other kid in my generation, we grew up outside playing with dirt, you know? Well, it depends. I mean, I played with dirt when I was younger, mainly because there was nothing else around. So what you're saying is that if you were somewhere else, you could play with better things other than dirt, such as remote control cars, per se, or footballs. You know, stuff, be a little athletic. Well, I'm not saying that I had a bad childhood. I'm just saying I'd prefer, I'd prefer growing up some other way. But it doesn't work like that. Now, I'm thankful for how I grew up, like I said, because if I didn't grow up like that, I wouldn't be the person I am now, you know? It's a very interesting point. It makes a lot of sense. Well, you know, there's not really much you can do to change the past unless you invent a time machine. Now, if we invent the time machine, it'd be almost redundant because they're being me now. If I go back and change who I was back then, I wouldn't be the same now. I'd be something else, someone else, some other person. You know, who's to say I couldn't be Frankie Muniz? Well, that makes a lot of sense. Well, here's the thing. There's how would I say it? There's a timeline with this, and this timeline is what keeps everything together. Okay? Now, if I would say the dinosaurs, okay? Say that we were to travel back in time to the dinosaurs, okay? And we killed off, say, the T-Rex. The T-Rex wouldn't be eating the velociraptors. Velociraptors will get more populated. More dinosaurs below them would die, and the food chain will just collapse. What happens after the food chain collapses? Everything else collapses. Now, that's getting really, really far behind. I don't even know if that would change, but I'm getting to a point here. The point is, whenever you change one aspect, another aspect changes on a much more drastic level. Now, if I was to travel back, say, to the 1980s and kill Kennedy myself, then who's to say I wouldn't have told on myself, you know? Maybe I'd be that kind of person in the 80s. I don't know. I didn't live them. I didn't live the 80s. But someone who did probably wouldn't have unless you go back in time and change their life. Now, say you were to travel back in time and be my best friend, okay? I don't even know you, Dylan, but if I did know you, then I'm pretty sure you would have changed my life. I would probably be the one interviewing you rather than you interviewing me. That's really interesting. You know, that's really crazy. How just changing one thing in the past can affect the future. Well, like I said, it's on a timeline here. Now, if you change the timeline in the past, then the present wouldn't be as it is now. Now, who's to say if the South won the Civil War? Okay? Now, I'm not saying that we would still have slaves nowadays. There's just no way because, you know, the way people are, you know, it wouldn't be right, you know? And people would eventually, to hell with slaves, we'll make them people, regular people, you know? Who's to say it wouldn't happen? But just in case people were the same way, then we'd be selling slaves on the internet. We'd see commercials on the TV of slaves, you know? It's a bit racist, don't you think? A little bit, yes, but it draws along this conclusion here.
that changing the past can change the future in a much more drastic level. Now, like I said, if the South won the Civil War, ain't saying that the people wouldn't see how inhumane this was, then yeah, that's how drastic it would be. Now, we wouldn't think it'd be drastic, but because we grew up like that, okay? But if we didn't grow up like that, say we were to change the past and make the South win the Civil War, okay? And then we come back to now, this point exactly, we wouldn't be having this interview. But at our minds, ourselves, our minds are the same. So everything around us would seem so drastic to us. The change is just amazing because all around us, it's a lot different than what it was when we left this point exactly. Now, granted, I may still be in the same room with you, but around this house, around this room, around this town would be a lot different. Outside would be slaves working my property. And it'd be weird if we looked at it because we didn't grow up like that. We grew up differently. Now, like I said, changing the past will drastically change the future. So, if you change the past, the future can change for better or for worse. Like I said with the Civil War.
That's really interesting. And it kind of makes me think that this whole interview is pointless.
Well, I mean, you did call me into here for a pointless interview. Isn't that the name of the show or something?
Oh yeah, I did forget to mention that, didn't I? It's called The Pointless Interview. We ask a bunch of pointless questions and get pointless answers. But that's besides the point. I'd like to ask another question, if you wouldn't mind, Dylan. Computers. Why are they so smart?
You are wrong, sir. Computers are not smart. They're fast. People are smart. Some people just aren't as fast as a computer. Now, the computers with this new i5 and i7 and second generation stuff, well, all that does is make the computer think faster. But it doesn't make it any smarter than us. Now, granted, if you're really stupid and don't know how to double click something, then yeah, the computer's definitely smarter than you. Because all you got to do nowadays, all you got to do now is just talk to the computer and it'll open it for you. You know? Like, what kind of crap is that? But here's the thing. Computers are not smarter. They're faster, like I said. You know, the processors, i7, Pentium, all that stuff. But, I think I should rephrase your question for you. Can computers be smarter than us?
Well, I guess I didn't think about it. Didn't think of the question like that.
Well, think about that. What if one day man builds a robot that can make us all inferior? You know, like think about it for a second. I know they're building robots now. Dogs can drive cars now. I'll put the link. I will put the link for you down here. But dogs are driving cars now. Now, also, there's little robots playing soccer, and the animal-looking cheetah running that's also a robot. And the humanoid robots, they're not really humanoids, but they move their elbows, and they can move their head back and forth, and they can walk, and they can run, and when they trip, they pick themselves back up, just like a person. But as of right now, are they smarter than us? I mean, I don't think so. If he was, then I'd give him my calculus test. Heck, let him pass that for me.
Well, Dylan, that's all the time we have for today. I really appreciate you coming out over here and interviewing me.
Hey man, the pleasure's all mine.
Stick with us next week, and we'll have another guest with us. And he will be talking about water and oxygen and carbon dioxide. Thank you for watching.